Real football might be over, but the offseason, much like the city of New York, never sleeps. We got coaching changes, free agency, the combine, the draft, and tons more action to cover to get ready for the next NFL season. Who's going to be the next rising star? What new coach is going to have the greatest impact? What free agent is going to take your team from pretender to contender? Let us be the voice of the NFL news. As Coach Mike Dubb, the real AG Alex Givens, young RG Robert Garcia, and yours truly, Coach Defense, break down everything from the NFL offseason right here on the NFL Offseason Blitz. Let's go. Welcome. Our latest installment of the Offseason Blitz.
By tuning into the Lockdown Defense Sports Network. You are tuning into the Lockdown Defense Sports Network.
The degenerate gambler himself, Mr. Over-Under, King Parlay, the young Padawan himself, and card-carrying member of the Boat Gang or Don't Bang fan club, young RG, Robert Garcia is in the building. Some people claim that they are all good, but none of them are real. The co-host of the Lightning Fast Fantasy Football Podcast, the trenches guru, Mr. I'm in 10 fantasy leagues and I'm still winning. President of the You Can Hate Me Cause You Ain't Me Chiefs fan club. Give it up for the real AG, Alex Givens. Calling from the DMV. Mr. Fall out of bed and drop big views on YouTube. They call him Dub because all he does is win. Coaching, sports talk, and he might steal your girl if you're not watching. President of the We Back Commanders fan club, Coach Mike Dubb is in the building. Yes, indeed. The Hit Squad is back in the building, and I'm your host, Coach Defense, live and direct, bringing you to you live the NFL offseason blitz. Gentlemen, let's go around the room real quick. Coach Mike Dubb, how you doing, good brother? What's going on with you?
Feeling good, man. Feeling good. Back for another great show. Glad to be with the fellas. Ready to get it going, man.
Absolutely. The real AG Alex Givens, how you doing, good brother? What's going on over there?
Yeah, I'm doing good, Coach. Fire intros there. Were those added? Did you add some to those?
I did.
I was gonna say those are different. I do request next time Mike Dubb needs a little Trey Songz, Mr. Stereo Girl to come out.
Copyright.
Mr. Stereo Girl.
Yeah, we got to get Trey Songz approval for that one. Sorry.
Yeah, we got to get him approval, you know.
Exactly. Well, with no copyright strikes on the channel, but we all good. They know. They know. If they don't see that, they know. If young Padawan, the degenerate gambler, young RG, what's going on, good brother? How you feeling?
Oh, doing good, sir. Love that Padawan edition. I, as a Star Wars nerd, big fan of that. So, yeah, and as you know, degenerate gambler 101. So, yeah, we're here. We're ready.
If you need any bets, any over-unders, any parlays, holla at your boy. He got it for you. Yes, indeed. So we are here back with the NFL Offseason Blitz, man. We have been doing a lot of draft coverage, a lot of, I guess you can say free agency coverage, a lot of team coverage, and things of that nature, man. So we had to get back, bring you to you back live and give you guys some good headlines this time around, man. We got some things to talk about today, man, as always. But first and foremost, get a quick business note out of the way. If you didn't catch our live last week or our information going on through the pod, we did complete a nice big announcement last week. The NFL Nation Live crew will be joining the Lockdown Divas Sports Network as analysts and contributors for the NFL and Raiders content. So the likes of Ref Guru, now newly retired NFL referee, Wayne Violator, Marbley, Raiders superfan, and Captain Jack Rackham, the Saudi Power will all appear on the channel in different capacities. So we're very excited to get those gentlemen on the channel, welcome aboard and do big things on the channel, man. So everybody watching the NFL Live Nation channel, head on over to the Lockdown Divas Sports Network button. Hit that sub button. Let everybody know we're out there. So we'll be joining forces to get things going in a proper manner in 2025, man. It's going live. It's going down. So, yeah, man, let's talk about these headlines, man. Y'all ready to get to it?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Do it.
All right, all right. So yeah, man, like I said, we get into our headlines this week. We got a 4 good topics to talk about today. We ain't gonna be here long. We get y'all here for a good time, not a long time, as we get things rolling. So let's get into the Hit Squad headline.
Hit Squad headlines.
All right. So yeah, man. Well, let's talk first and foremost about I guess you can say the elephant in the room, for Raiders fans, if nothing else, right? Let's talk about our guy Aaron Rodgers. Are the Steelers in trouble? Now, I was worried about this topic because I was like, watch you do something real ignorant and sign right before we go live, right? So
come on. He got to drag it out as long as possible.
Yeah. So yeah,
Aaron Rodgers fashion.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, he kept our topic intact. So to start the headlines off, man, let's talk about the Steelers itself. Like I said, we don't have Hit Squad headlines but what's hot in the streets, the new trending topics that's going on in avenues and NFL spaces. So let's talk about Aaron Rodgers. Is there no Rodgers, no hope? What if Aaron Rodgers in true dramatic and diva fashion just up and decide, because he's been doing all these weird things by having these interviews and people asking questions and golf tournaments and all this type of jazz saying, would he play for the Bears? Would he play for the Vikings? He's a 49ers fan as a kid and all those things seemingly off the table at this point. It's almost like it's Steelers or nothing. So the Steelers are patiently waiting or impatiently waiting for him to make up his mind, for all intents and purposes, right? So, let's start out with Coach Mike Dub. Let's get you lead this topic off for us, man. Tell us how you feel about Aaron Rodgers and what will happen if the Steelers do not land Aaron Rodgers. What will they do for 2025?
So here's the thing. First of all, I think that the Steelers will end up landing him eventually. I think he's doing what a lot of vets do, which is they don't want to go to training camp. They don't want to do the mini camp thing. They've been in it for 15, however many years. So we've seen it with guys flirting with retirement before, and then they come back right before week 1. I think, in my opinion, he's going to come back right before camp and make that decision. So if I had to make a prediction, I think he's coming back. However, I will say, regardless of him being there or not being there, I don't like the fit for the Steelers. I don't like how they approach the situation. Even if he does decide to come, I don't like the fit with them overall. They're not like an offense that's loaded with weapons on left and right. Sure, they got DK, but other than that, it's a lot of question marks with the pass catchers. A lot of question marks with the offense and things going on. So it's not like he's coming into a well-oiled machine where he's been there for years and he can miss camp and come pick up on it. We looked at him with the Jets last year coming off the injury. He got off to a slow start. He was there for 2 years and he still got off to a slow start. And, later on they picked it up. He looked good, looked like old Aaron Rodgers toward the end of the season. But when you're coming in with a new team, no offseason reps, no camaraderie, no chemistry, I don't like the fit. Not only that, what message does it send to the team where you holding up everything that's going on because you don't get it, your starting quarterback or your quarterback that you want to go out and get hasn't been there. He hasn't given any type of confirmation that he's coming. He hasn't locked in. If you're trying to get your locker room together and the leader of your team hasn't bought in, then what kind of message does that send to the rest of the team? It's a lot of uncertainty there. So already you're coming into a situation where the locker room is, who knows how they're feeling about it. And if he's missing these reps, what's the feeling going to be when he finally does get there? So I don't like the fit in general. I think what the Steelers should be doing, whether he signs or not, sure, the door's open for him to sign. But if I were them, I will go out and, get a Teddy Bridgewater or something like that. Get a capable quarterback that can hold it down until you get your franchise guy next year. Maybe they want to go out and make a trade for Will Levis. I don't know. But, there has to be somebody in place, not only just to get you – somebody has to take snaps under center for the year. And it can't be Mason Rudolph. I'm sorry. It just can't be. It can't be. So you got to have somebody. If I were them, I would go out, like I said, maybe sign a Bridgewater, see what you can do this year, try your best to compete, and then draft your franchise guy next year. You want to make a trade. I've seen their names mentioned and with the New Orleans Saints with Olave. So maybe they want to load up on weapons this year and get their guy next year. However they want to do it. Either way, I don't think Rodgers is the guy that you lean your hat on. They have to have some type of contingency plan. So whether he's coming or not, I think they need to add one, maybe even 2 more guys to their roster that push come to shove, can hold it down for them.
I like it. Yeah. I definitely share that sentiment, man. And I'm sorry, I would not be holding my franchise hostage. $1 billion organization should be not being held hostage by one guy, deciding whether or not he even wants to play football. And to your point, what's that message that sends to the players? These are hard-nosed, tough working people. Mike Tomlin has definitely built up, that culture and that just that stigma of having, being tough, tough, hard-nosed football. So bringing in I hate to use the word diva, it's overused at this point, but bringing a guy that's a prima donna or a diva.
What it is, man. Call a spade a spade.
Hey, man, it is.
It quacks like a duck, and it walks like a duck, and it talks like a duck. It's
how many different ways can you dress up a duck? Because that's what it is. How many different ways can you dress up a duck? Because that's what it is.
Mike Tomlin says, "Watch me." He tries to dress it up in a Kenny Pickett dress and a Mason Rudolph hat. I mean, dude, it ain't nothing about that working.
A well-hired crop top,
yeah.
Mercy.
And a pair of Aaron Rodgers boots to kick with it, man.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Crazy. And the frustrating thing, I don't see where they're going. It will be one thing if they drafted a guy and they're expecting Aaron Rodgers to come start, but they have no type of plan as far as going forward. They went through the draft. It's not even said that they had to get a guy, in the first round. They could have got Milroe, who it turns out is looking pretty good in camp now.
Right. Should have got Shador like 4 different times.
Yeah, they passed on
like
Shador,
5 times, whatever it was.
Let's say it all right. They could have had Jackson Dart.
They could have had their pick.
They could have had Shador Sanders. They had all 3 of those guys.
Yeah, any QB not named Cam Ward.
And all 3, and all 3 look pretty good right now.
Exactly. You let the Browns reach on Dylan Gabriel, and that was like that's going to be
the Browns took 2 QB.
Yeah, because the Browns were like, wow, he's still here. I mean, like, we almost got to take him at this point on sheer principle. Like, come on.
Yeah, so that's the frustrating thing is it doesn't seem like they have any type of plan other than, a 40. How old is he? 40, 42,
41, 42, somewhere.
40, he'll be 41.4. According to Sport Track, so he's about to be 42. He'll be 42 in the middle of the season.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like, what is your plan, and what message does that send to the rest of the team? It just looks like they. Listen, I've been a Commander fan for a long time. This reeks of something we would do. You know what I mean? In the past. So.
How about that?
I was just about to say, it's so sad that a cornerstone franchise like Pittsburgh is letting a diva like Rodgers, like you said, hold their franchise hostage like this. Like,
it's insane, though. Like,
it blows me away.
And no incentive. Like, I mean, let's see, let's be real. A handshake deal or a word of mouth does not, until you sign on a dotted line. Even you can still sign on a dotted line and retire on it, but still signing on a dotted line, given having a contract, kind of gives me an inclination that you want to be there. But outside of that, I'm just like, look. There's a wing and a prayer, because let's be real. Like you said, Will Howard and Mason Rudolph are not moving the needle. I don't care how good your defense is. They're not moving the needle. So you balked on all those quarterbacks we just named, and you turn around and you still waiting on this dude. And let's be honest, he's coming into a new system. You got new weapons, new offensive line, all these type of things you got to build camaraderie in with. And I don't want to get why he thinks he can just come in and everything's supposed to work around him like he's God. I don't get it. But, you got to establish, rapport with your wide receivers. I mean, let's look at the people that really do it the right way. Tom Brady was going out and meeting with receivers before he even signed with teams. Before he signed with Tampa Bay, he was working out with Mike Evans, working out with Chris Godwin, guys of that nature. Guys, he got drafted by the team. He would go and work out with them. He'd go meet them where they're at. He wouldn't even make them come to him. He would go meet them where they reside.
And that was COVID time. They couldn't even practice at the actual facility. Right. Yeah, and he was still making it happen. He
written out fields and stuff for them to practice at. So it makes no sense at all. And I agree with you. I think no matter what they do in this space, they don't have a succession plan. I can see if they drafted Jackson Dart and decided they want to use Aaron for a year or two to however long he wanted to play, and then Jackson will be the guy going forward. But they didn't do that either. Yeah, they did it either. So I don't get it. So does anybody ever have any I guess you could say refuting comments or additional comments that they want to add to this particular fracas? Because this is a mess.
I mean, I'd almost rename it even with Rodgers, no hope. I don't get it. The thing that really baffles me is, we saw the implosion in New York, and he's still doing. Arguably he's doing the same damn stuff he was doing there. That just imploded the franchise and set them back and regressed their up-and-coming young players. And then you have, Pittsburgh, who's, stable head coach, has his culture, and it's like, seems very much to be Tomlin's way or you're out, as evidenced by them moving on from plenty of guys that were focal points of the franchise. But then they're like, even if they have this behind closed doors deal, you're still letting him go do all the same stuff he does. You're still letting him be the diva that is Aaron Rodgers. And what makes you think that he's going to come in, save the day for your offense without being a part of the development of it all in the preseason, and then not be the Aaron Rodgers he's been the past few years of like making everything about him, like directly contradicting what the front office and head coach says, because he's the longtime vet and just things like that. I just think it's all just a barrel waiting to just catch on fire.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah. I don't get it. No, Archie, you got anything to say about this? We can go on this about this a days
yeah.
end, but
we could do a whole live show just on this topic alone. But yeah, I'll just quickly end it out with, I mean, just looking at it from a purely statistical point of view, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields were basically your two quarterbacks last year, and they gave you a combined, we'll call it 3,700 yards passing and 21 passing touchdowns to 6 picks. I mean, like, I feel like you could get that from Will Howard. Like, no BS. Like, you could seriously get those numbers from Will Howard. Those are, like, maybe the interceptions are probably up a little bit more, but your defense is better this year around. I mean, if I'm Tomlin, and obviously as a coach, you never want to tank. So I'm sure he's not telling his guys, hey, y'all, we need to just be absolutely terrible to get our quarterback next year. Like, obviously, he's going to have these guys playing hard. And obviously, in our records predictions, I have the Steelers beating us just because I think Tomlin is that good of a head coach. But, I mean, I feel like for somebody that's not even in his prime, you're going to probably pay a crap ton of money for somebody who basically doesn't want anything to do with teamwork. He is the complete opposite of Tom Brady as a leader. So, like, I just don't know. It blows my mind that we're still this far into the offseason. The Steelers still don't have a quarterback. Rodgers still isn't signed. And like we already mentioned, this is the only place for him. So, and he knows it. And the Steelers, we all wanted him. We all wanted them to take a QB in the first round and just say, F you, Rodgers.
Right.
And we'll see what happens. You'll probably retire. But they didn't. They, like we said, verbal agreement or whatever. I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. And then hearing reports like he was trying to convince Minnesota to sign him, make it seem like they're not all in on JJ McCarthy and that kind of business. I'm like, bro, I mean, just say you want to be Brett Favre. Let's just say that. You just want to finish the villain arc of Brett Favre. You just want to finish that and maybe say, right.
Brett Favre's arc didn't end too well. If you saw the new documentary,
they made it to an NFC Championship game for what it's worth.
He loathes Brett Favre on the low. He loathes him. He don't like him.
Oh, of course.
He wants to one up. He said, if I can go to Minnesota and take them further than he did, at least make the Super Bowl, then maybe. In his mind, maybe he thinks that he said, I did all things that Brett Favre did, but I did it better, even though the Jets thing was an abject disaster. But so was Brett Favre, so it is what it is.
I mean, he can't say that with Green Bay, though, because Brett Favre got them 2 chips. So, I mean,
I thought he had one. I think he only won.
Or am I tripping?
I think he went to 2.
Oh, you're right. He went to 2. You're right. He went to 2. You're right.
All you need to win is 1, and you're a god in Green Bay.
And you're a made man in Green Bay.
Indeed.
You win once, dude. They're going to talk about it like it just happened last year,
There you go.
You win a Super Bowl for the Chargers, you'll be in goddamn history.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's different. Different. Yeah, that's definitely different. So, yeah, so we'll see how things go, man. But I just don't like it. And this is a close on this. I heard Mike Tomlin say to Chase Young when Chase Young first got drafted. He said that I hope I'm never as bad enough to draft a guy like you, which means he never wants to draft in the top 10. So that kind of lets you know that he's never in the business of quote unquote tanking in his mind. Which again, sometimes for business sake, you just might need to for 1 year to get your quarterback. Because let's be real, they never get a quarterback right. I mean, they've had 2 good quarterbacks in my lifetime: Terry Bradshaw and Ben Roethlisberger. That's been it.
Yeah. Pretty much. I just Big Ben's all I've known pretty much since birth for me.
Exactly. So we listen. Thoughts and tariffs for the Steelers. Thoughts and tariffs.
Wait, I'll pose a very, very quick question to y'all. How many years do you give Mike Tomlin there remaining in Pittsburgh?
Oh, they don't do that. They don't fire.
He's done.
So what do you mean until he's done? You mean until he goes to ownership and he's like, hey, I'm
retiring?
Yeah, it's the same thing Coward did. Coward decided he didn't want to coach anymore. That's the only reason why he left.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to who's calling. Like, I don't know who's calling the shots. Who's the person behind the Rodgers thing? Who's the person behind not drafting a quarterback? Is this Tomlin's thing? Is it a G? I'm just curious who it is, because that could also make a difference. Maybe they're trying to, maybe they don't want to fire Tomlin and they're trying to, make a way for them to just start a rebuild. I don't know. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, because I just can't put my finger on it. I can't see any type of direction. So I'm curious as to whose shot it is. Like, who's calling the shots as to, let's wait on Rodgers, let's not draft a quarterback, let's not go out in free agency, let's not get anybody. That may determine how long Tomlin stays, if he doesn't like the direction that leadership is going, or if he's the one that's in charge of it. I don't know.
Well, I've heard stories about Mike Tomlin and his relationship with the organization, and I believe this to be true. I think I heard it from his mouth directly, because I think they asked him about how he went about getting a free agent, because there was one guy they just happened to land. I'm not sure. I can't remember who the guy is, but he said that he went to the Rooney's kind of keep their hands off the situation. Mm-hmm. Like, they let the GM and the coach run it, and they just kind of bless their decision making. So
as good owners do.
Yeah, right. So
he should.
Right, which means why they've been a solid organization for the past 30 years, right? So he basically says that I go into Art Rooney's, or whoever is in, whoever in the Rooney family is available, say, hey, we want to do X, Y, and Z, run it past them. They say, okay, how are we gonna go about it? How are we gonna do this? What is the logistics like? Give me the numbers, and they go about it that way. So I think it's pretty much up to the GM and Tomlin. So if they're calling the shots, it's kind of like what Pete Carroll was in Seattle, before he got out of there. So I think it's going to be Tomlin's give away he would be his job to keep it until he wants to give it away.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I would think with the level of success and sustained success he's had, he's probably pretty high up there in terms of, how much weight's given to his opinion on a decision being made.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't see, how long has he been there?
Since the late
2000s. A long time.
15 years maybe.
You're around that long running this team as the coach, and you don't get any say and stuff like that at this point. I don't believe that. So
yeah.
I mean,
maybe it is just like a pride thing. Like, I don't want to suck bad enough to be picking top 5 to take a QB. So we're gonna figure it out one way or the other. And I'm going to do me with my guys.
There are teams out there that were bad for 1 year, got their guy, and they were relevant for the next 15. I would rather do that than be barely making the playoffs or barely 500 for the next 10. That's just me.
But they could have got a guy this year.
They could have. You're right.
Like, they could have got.
I know. That's what really blows my mind, is the fact that they had multiple opportunities. I mean, even after the first round, to take a QB. I guess they did. I mean, they did take Will Howard. Or signed him.
He's sixth round.
I mean, I guess they did do that, but it just there's just seems to be no direction.
Like 8 quarterbacks to get to Will Howard.
Yeah.
The only thing that makes sense, and this kind of directly counters what I was saying earlier. The only thing that makes sense as to why the Steelers would do something like this, or excuse me, why Tomlin would do something like this, is because we've seen in the past that Tomlin, his one, you could argue, kink, or his one nook in the armor, is he is not great at handling personalities in the locker room, specifically with wide receivers. But I think that he's obviously a very big players coach. That's no doubt. I mean, he adheres to his guys 100%, but in that, he also kind of allows them to, as long as they're talented, to kind of just do whatever they want. No, but I mean, it's been that way. So in that regard, it makes total sense why Tomlin is just waiting out Aaron Rodgers, because he's like, dude, I got a future Hall of Famer that, basically is telling me he wants to play here. Yeah, I'm not gonna draft anybody that would, scare him off or intimidate him into not coming here. Like that's Tomlin's mentality. But I don't know.
Yeah, that's a rough one, because I feel like this, because typically young quarterbacks, that come in from college don't have an ego. They're not established, so they're trying to make their name. So you would think that you would want to bring a young guy in so you can mold him. If you want to build them up in your image and how you want to, instill your culture inside of a person that's going to play quarterback for you, you would think you get a young guy. A guy that's established coming off the street, has been in a veteran for umpteen amount of years, is going to come in with his own ways of doing things, and he's not changing. So that's what
especially
you're
a guy that wants to protect his own legacy.
right?
Like,
Exactly. So, yeah, I don't understand it, but we'll see how things shake. I mean, hopefully, if nothing else, just so they won't be completely utterly terrible and unwatchable this year. Maybe hopefully Rodgers signs, but outside of that, I mean, again, because they even floating the Kirk Cousins rumors out there, and I don't think that's a good idea, especially the amount of money he's going to be able to get from the Steelers in contract, because that contract is hefty.
Yeah.
Because we'll watch June 1 too, because his contract becomes tradable at June 1. They will get some cap money back if they trade him after June 1. So we'll see. But yeah, I don't like it. I don't like either one of those options personally. Yeah. All right, so let's move on, man. Let's talk about another guy that's been in the news here lately. Let's talk about Travis Hunter. Young man, shouts out to him, congrats to him. He just got married to his long-term girlfriend, the one that's been in the news a lot lately, not for good reason. But they got married. He bought her a truck, and they partied, and they lived their best life, and they seem to be happy and things of that nature. No prenup. So thoughts and tears to that too. Yeah, so we'll
what's that song? Oh no, can't make. Well, never mind.
We're gonna do that either.
We're gonna do that.
So, but for him on the field, there's been a lot of I guess you can say buzz, a lot of talk in regards to what he is or isn't going to be for the Jaguars. The Jaguars traded up, gave up a first round pick next year to get him at what was it, pick 3? He got him at pick 3, 2. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they traded up to 2.
Yep. So he's been working out as a wide receiver. Haven't really seen him do a lot of DB drills. So I would argue that the two-way thing can go either way. I mean, not many people or anybody in the history of the NFL has been really successful at it, quote unquote. But let's start off with Robert with this one. Tell me how you feel about him playing both positions, wide receiver and cornerback, and do you think it will work or will it not? And the second we would like to call two-way or no way.
Yeah, so I think, Travis Hunter, obviously, unicorn coming out of college, playing both sides of the ball, never really been done before. Only in, incremental kind of bits and pieces here, maybe one-off plays or whatnot. We've obviously seen his former Colorado coach, Dion, run a couple wide receiver plays as a main DB. We've seen, Gronk play, free safety on Hail Mary. So we've seen a little bit of, kind of wild card plays, but never somebody who, legitimately has the talent, I feel, to full-time play both sides of the ball. And I think Travis Hunter, personally, I think he could do it. I don't think he could do it full-time on either side or on both sides. I think he would have to, and like many people are saying, I think he would have to pick a side that he wants to quote unquote master. And in my opinion, I think Coach agrees with me on this. That would be DB. Yes. And you just kind of use, maybe be a wide receiver 3/4, come in on, certain yardage situations, certain packages, things like that. And that's not to say that he's, going to come in for one play and then, hop back out. He'll maybe come in for a series of plays, maybe come in for a full drive or something like that. I definitely feel like you're going to see him get a serviceable amount of reps on both sides of the ball. I don't think that's, to be questioned. I just think, people automatically hear, two-way player and they're like, oh, he's going to be out there for, 70 snaps on offense and 67 snaps on defense. Obviously college, it's a little bit different. It's not as fast, it's not as physical, not nearly as much as the NFL. So I think it's going to tell us, this first season of course is going to tell us a lot, and with how the Jags deploy him on offense and on defense. But I feel like if he plays full-time corner, which the Jags desperately need, so it would be not for, being greedy. You're going to be the position of need is the position you're best at. So I don't think there's any issues with that. And wide receiver, they obviously took Brian Thomas Jr. in last year's draft, and he absolutely balled out. And he's for real because Mac Jones was throwing him the ball, and his numbers did not deteriorate at all once Trevor Lawrence went out. Maybe that says something about Trevor Lawrence. Take that how you will, but definitely says something about Brian Thomas Jr. I mean, the dude's a stud. So, yeah, I think they don't need a wide receiver as badly as they need a corner. So I think he will definitely contribute. But I think if we had to look at it, like percentages wise, I'd say, of all the snaps he's going to play this year, 75% of them will be on defense and 25% of them will be on offense. Something kind of like that split.
I like the percentage. That's a good one. That's a good one. Mike Dub, you got anything to add to or refute in that particular conversation?
Yeah, I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be all right on both sides of the ball. The reason why is because I don't think there's any argument that he's a better fit at DB right now. He can go in and be their number one corner right now, which is probably why he's been working more on offense during the mini camps. And of course, during training camp, you'll probably start to see him get mixed in a little bit on defense. But also, if you look at their head coach and what he did in Tampa Bay with Godwin on the opposite side of Mike Evans, I think that they might want to, implement him kind of the similar way on the opposite side of Thomas. Obviously, Thomas is going to be the guy, so most of the attention is going to shift towards there, which is going to open up things for Hunter. He hasn't looked very polished on his routes. Once again, I think that's probably the biggest reason why he spent so much time on the offensive side of the ball during minicamp. But I think that he can, and I do see him really being a playmaker on both sides of the ball. Will he be a 1,500-yard receiver and 90 catch? No, I don't think so. But I think he's going to give you enough of a spark. He's going to keep the defense honest so that you have to account for him, and he's going to go up and he's going to do his thing on defense, I believe. So it's really going to come down to scheme and how you scheme him up. Also, how the defensive coach wants to use him. Does he want to travel him? Does he want to have him on one side? Does he want to play him, in a certain type of scheme? So all of that is going to be dependent upon it. I think he'll be fine. And who knows? They might even try him out on special teams. I don't know if he's kick returning as well, punt returning as well. But I think they're going to get all that they can for him for a few reasons. Number one, he's young. I think his body can handle it right now. As he gets further into his career, maybe we'll see it taper off a little bit. But I think the first few years, they're going to capitalize off of the hype. They're going to sell some tickets. They're going to get the fan base going. And he's going to do his thing. Now, whether or not they'll win, I don't know. But I believe in him. I think they'll do his thing. And I just want to bring up, why does nobody ever remember Troy Brown from the Patriots? Anybody? You remember that, right?
I remember Troy Brown.
Yes, he had like a full season where he played both offense and defense pretty much full time and was productive in it. He was a starting wide receiver, but Belichick moved him to play DB. It was like maybe 03 or 04 or something like that. I'm aging myself, but Troy Brown for the Patriots. That's the only person I've seen in my lifetime play both ways. But he played a whole season of it. He was he was pretty productive. So I think we can see something like that from Travis Hunter.
Yeah, Mike Dub kind of took what mine was going to say. Is I definitely think they're going to have him do it, start of his career. And it's like you think back, like growing up, I mean, you played both ways and it was fine. You got through it. But I just think, the NFL is certainly more demanding and physically demanding, that he's not going to be able to do it through the totality of his career. But, I think like you said, create hype, sell tickets, beef up the Duval train. He's going to do it. Yeah. He's definitely at least going to be playing prominently both ways his rookie year, and then we'll just see how his body reacts and responds from there moving forward.
Yeah. Go ahead, bro. Well, let me chime in real quick.
Yeah. Go, coach.
I'll say this. He's I think it's dangerous because he plays a highly impactful position. What I mean by impactful, I mean it's impacting on your legs, your knees, your ankles. A lot of lower body movement in these positions, be a DB or wide receiver, right? And we see wide receivers and DBs are like, get injured and they're, detrimental injuries to lower bodies and things of that nature. So I think he's doubling his chances to get injured. And he's not the biggest guy. I mean, he's not 175 pounds, but he's not 210 either. So I think you're putting your body through that type of rigorous play in the NFL now. This is not college. It's a whole different ball game. Guys bigger, faster, stronger, hit harder, in a lot of spaces. So you go from hitting people on one side of the ball to getting hit on the other side. So I think that, he's one twist, hip drop or whatever you want to call it away from being done for the season. kind of thing, and it's going to ruin, very prominent in early career if he gets, into that, stratosphere. Now, I don't want to wish that on him. I wish him well or whatever he does. I wish him success in whatever he does. But I think that if he was able to, based upon his athletic ability alone, if he focuses in on being a solid defensive back, he can be a top 5 DB by year 2 or year 3. I think if he really, really honed in on just focusing on that particular aspect of it, not too much worried about wide receiver, because let's not act like they're just chump on the other side of the ball. They have weapons on the other side of the ball, and you can get more. There's still free agents out there. You can go out there and get a Mark Cooper. You can go out there and get Keenan Allen, guys are still out there in free agency. If you want a guy that's going to hold the position for you for a year until you bring in another guy in the draft. So I would say that for what your biggest need is, I would let him play that position solely, let him focus on that and learn the NFL game from that aspect of it. Because it's still a learning curve here. You're splitting time and not learning one position because you're going back and forth. You're not really getting into the nuances of what the NFL is. And everybody has to go through that learning curve as a rookie. So I think that he should just hone in on one side of the ball. And if you want to throw in a few gadget plays, a few packages for him, and kind of throw a monkey wrench into what people like to do defensively against the Jags, just to kind of throw them off, then that's cool. But to line him up full time on the opposite side of Brian Thomas, I think that's a mistake. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna line him up full time opposite of Brian Thomas. I think he'll come in kind of like I mentioned, wide receiver 3, on like certain packages, things like that. But I also don't think you trade up and trade away all that capital to take him at 2 with the thought of, we're just going to stick you at cornerback and, maybe a play here or there, we'll count on a couple of hands. Yeah. So like with that, I totally understand. And that's why I feel like he will play 2-way. And ultimately, like at the end of the day, there is no guarantee. All these players, all however many hundreds of players there are in the NFL, thousands, whatever it is, all of them can step onto the field and, that play could be their last, So I also feel like with Travis Hunter, you can't operate him with that fear of, oh my God, if we play him, the more wide receiver we play him, the less he may get hurt here. We may lose. Like you just got to throw him out there. Be like, this dude is insanely talented. We drafted him high, that high to reflect that talent. And now we want to see that talent pay us, tenfold or whatever it may be. Right. So, I do think, is it, there is, you could look at it a ton of negative ways. You could look at it a ton of positive ways. At the end of the day, we're not going to know how his body or how he'll react to it and handle it until this first season concludes. So as far as this season, he is going to be playing 2 ways, maybe not full time, both, but like I mentioned, that 75-25 split.
Well, now as you were talking, I looked at their depth chart and they kind of need him both ways.
Especially after they, traded Kirk, they let Gabe Davis go.
Why did you do that? That's too bad.
They could sign, like you mentioned, though. There's more free agent wide receivers still available than there are free agent.
Agreed, and they need to sign one like today because you got to look at this: Brian Thomas, Travis Hunter, and then a bunch of YMCA players. You got Parker Washington, Joseph Cephas, David White, J.J. Jones, like De'Ami Brown. Like, who are these guys?
Well, De'Ami Brown, I know. Coach Mike Dove is familiar with.
Yeah, I know him. We know
what has he ever done in the league to be a number 2 wide receiver?
Caught a couple fades, here.
Honestly, Keenan Allen would be a great signing there.
He would. I agree, but not that I want him to. I'm selfishly want him to start this, but I mean, if he does get signed somewhere, this would be a prime candidate because he had decent quarterback, decent O-line, decent run game. And Brian Thomas on the opposite side, that would be a nice little tandem. But they need to, and Brenton Strange, you tight end, let Evan Ingram go too. You let all your offensive weapons go. Christian Kirk's gone, Gabe Davis, Evan Ingram are all gone. You had 3 good receivers that you all let go to double down and trade up and mortgage the future for Travis Hunter. That's wild.
Do they still have ETN?
Yeah, they do. ETN,
ETN and Bigsby, right? Yeah.
They drafted Tootin. They drafted Tootin in the draft. Yeah, but Tootin.
But I mean, what you just said right there, Coach, along with Robert, pointing out that they're not going to trade up the way they did and give up that future draft capital, as well as move on from these other
3 guys,
granted injury-ridden, but somewhat established receivers in the NFL and then be like, yeah, Travis, you're playing corner. Sorry.
Right. Yeah.
And bring in, this offensive guru from Tampa
Right.
Bay to revitalize the QB you threw a bunch of money at, and then be like, yeah, you're playing corner.
Yeah.
So I think at least to start.
Wait. Who
Now
was
you
it
play-
who was it that said that the shady deals they did with Cohen was going to be the demise of the Jags? I think it was Robert.
Yeah.
Might have
What
been,
did
yeah. The way they went about
That
that.
sneaky link that happened, bro. Yeah, man. That ain't gonna end pretty for them.
That's sneaky link.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that man snuck out of the house, out of that facility at midnight. He's like, "Hey, don't worry, honey. I'm going to the doctor. I'll be back."
Yeah, patient first into the 24-hour clinic and it's open up.
Yeah,
call
just gotta go to the
receivers.
urgent care.
There you go. There you go. So yeah, we'll see how things go, man. But I think Travis is they putting a lot on his shoulders to walking in there as a number 2 overall pick. I mean, and if it does not work glowingly, they're going to be looking up again, and who has their Cleveland has their first round pick next year?
Yeah.
Cleveland going to be like, well,
They're gonna be picking twice
Be
in
like
the top
Chicago.
5.
Yeah, have the number 1 and 3 pick.
Fanatic, here we come.
And still mess it up. But hey.
Yeah, they'll figure out a way to screw it up. That's what they do. That's what they do. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. So moving on down the line, let's talk about Brock Purdy. Let's talk about Big Money Purdy. Big Money Purdy. Cashed in. Listen, I think that he wanted to make up for a little bit of that money he missed out at being Mr. Irrelevant, and he got paid big dollars. Big dollars, no cents. I'm talking about big dollars. So Brock Purdy signed a record extension that is going to lock him up to 2030, I believe, if I have the number correct, to play for a franchise quarterback for the 49ers. So I think this is to the tune of what, 250 million is what I think the number was.
265 million.
265, yes, 265. So, man, that's a lot to discuss here, and I think we all had our angst and trepidation about what the number should be and what would it do to the team. So, let's start the conversation with the real AG here. Let's talk about Brock Purdy and this contract. What do you feel about this contract, and how does it affect the team's future?
Yeah, so just to add a little to the number game here. Yeah,
Yes,
he did
give
sign
me details.
265 million, 40 mil signing bonus, 182 million fully guaranteed, and essentially making 53 mil a year. So
I gotta get the details right here.
yeah, and you see the giant cap hits that 2025 you did the team a favor, great, but
2029.
those cap hits climb pretty quick and come pretty fast. And to me, I think this extension and everything was kind of just the perfect storm. Like, you had this guy who came in as Mr. Irrelevant, almost a write-off from the moment you add him to your team. He becomes your starter, super cheap deal. You can load up all these, studs and stars around him, make him look good, get to a Super Bowl with him, and then, throw all this money at him that's ultimately going to keep you from replenishing the roster around him, when things get a little later on in his career. And so to me, like, shout out Brock Purdy, like, awesome story from where he started to what he got. But I think a huge overpay for San Francisco, and just fell victim to, like I said, the perfect storm of like, well, we made it to a Super Bowl with him, but not really realizing like what was around him. And, to me, if you're paying someone this money, it should at least be a quarterback that can elevate the team around you. Because that's what they're going to have to do at some point. And I don't think Brock Purdy's that type of QB. And I think if you look at this last season, like, that was essentially his tryout to earn this money. In my opinion, like, everyone around him was injured. You had McCaffrey out for the year, Trent Williams banged up, Ayuk out for the year, Debo banged up. And what did they do? They didn't even make the playoffs. He went 1-6 against the playoff teams. He didn't even beat the teams you're going to need to beat to have your sustained success. So, like, to me, like, the writing was on the wall right there. Like, well, if we don't have all these studs around him, like, he's not going to go out there and light it up. But, it's just, we see, I think, every year some QB get money just because they're a victim of being a free agent at that time. There's not, many other options out there. their team's not picking high enough to replace him in the draft without giving up mortgaging their future. So let's just give them money. And if we got to, we can write it off our books, down the road. So yeah, I like shout out to him for getting his money, but I think it's a big overpay. And I think San Francisco is going to, have to really quickly tweak how they build their rosters, because they're not going to be able to do what they've been doing of just getting all these, big time players from other teams on expiring deals and then pay them a bunch of money because they got the cheap QB. And I thought maybe they would try to continue doing that, because it seemed to be the way they did it. Like, had Garoppolo, then got Lance, and that didn't work out, but then got Purdy. And I'm like, well, maybe Shanahan just thinks he's the type of guy that I can find any QB to make this work. And here they are changing that narrative by giving them all this money.
Yeah, this is I personally looked at this as Kyle Shanahan needed to make this move if his job was not going to be in jeopardy, because Brock Purdy very, very, very quickly made 49ers fans and really NFL fans in general forget the fact that the Niners traded 3 first-round picks to acquire Trey Lance, who isn't even on the roster anymore. And the only reason that Kyle Shanahan has a job is because with the very last pick, he threw a dartboard threw a dart on a dartboard and was like, all right, what name did it land on? Brock Purdy. We need a QB. Sure. Let me take this guy. And because at the time the Niners had a super team, he balled out, did what Jimmy Garoppolo basically did for all those years. And he really made it to the exact same peak that Jimmy Garoppolo made it to, overtime in the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs. Came up short, but that's what Jimmy G did. So it's, to me, obviously, like you mentioned, Alex, huge overpay. This he in no way. I am happy for him. I want to preface that by saying I am extremely happy for him. Like you mentioned, the story is fantastic. I mean, he deserves every bit of this money, but the Niners are screwed now. Moving forward, the Niners will not be competing in the NFC or even in their own division, really. Based on this contract that they gave him. I mean, just look at that cap hit in 2029. Now, obviously, some restructures will definitely need to get done to adjust that, but $72.5 million for your cap hit. What was the cap this year? It was like 230. Well, yeah, 239 or something like that. Dude, I mean, that's like a third of your cap right there for a QB.
You see the cap league. You see the percentage is 17%.
Yeah.
I'm tripping.
He has a relatively chill cap hit for 2025, but then it climbs quick.
Last year,
no, yeah. 2025. I'm not looking. I'm looking at for the foreseeable future. Kind of towards the end of this deal, and that potential out, is that a player opt out if he wants to opt out of this deal?
It's a void year. Some of the void year.
So can the Niners
potential out after 3 years?
So can the Niners get out of it?
Yeah, the Niners can get out of it in 3 years. Yep.
I 1,000% see, if there was ever a bet you could put on this, put money on the Niners getting out of this contract in 2028, because there's no way in hell they're going to keep him under that come 2028. No way.
That's funny. That is funny.
I kind of agree with both. Robert, I agree with you. I feel like this is a deal that they had to make because they had to make it work. You can't put all that into, how you ended up with them and then walk away from it. You had to be exhaustive in your opportunities to try to make it work. And then also, I agree with what you were saying, AG. It was kind of weird though, because the 49ers had done everything a certain type of way for so long, and they've probably been arguably the most consistent team and the most consistent franchise in the past 10 years or whatever. I mean, you can almost count on them to be in the NFC Championship running, it seems like. And now they had a certain formula for that, and now they're going the exact opposite. So they had the formula of big name players, rookie quarterback. Now they're going to have to draft their butts off for these next few years and really develop a lot of talent. There's going to be a lot of no-name players on that defense and on that team in 2 years. Literally, like this time next year, the next 2 years, we're going to say, who are these guys? and they're really gonna have to draft and develop, and that's I think that's what they're trying to do now, because what they did before wasn't working out. And the crazy thing is, it wasn't that it really wasn't working out. They just couldn't get over the hump. I mean, how many NFC championships did they go to in a row? Or, how many years were they competing for an NFC championship? So I don't know. I feel like they tried something different now. It was a situation where they couldn't go without a quarterback. They had to solidify Purdy. So they were going to pay what they needed to pay with it. I do agree. After 3 years, they're going to reevaluate it. But I think the biggest thing is going to be look for them to really acquire a lot of draft picks. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw even more guys moved off that roster. We saw them offload Debo, saw them offload a few other guys. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw them try to load up on draft picks and try to get it right within these next 2 to 3 years, because that's really what the team is going to be made off of. So hopefully their scouting department is hard at work, because they're going to try to get it done the opposite way of how they done it before.
I was just trying to think too, like, when have they hit on a recent pick? Like, I can't think of anyone they drafted.
Just greatest. That was gonna be one of my
points. But then I was like, then I just remember Robert saying they traded 3 first-round picks for Lance, so maybe that's part of it too. But I'm like trying to think, like, who have they even spent a second-round pick on that is a major contributor for them right now? I'm about to look.
Things I want to bring up, because my thing is this: they haven't really, there've been some guys that kind of been serviceable. The kid Hufanga they drafted. He might have been a UDFA. I can't remember exactly, but I think
he was.
Yeah, but again, but he was one. He was one of the few guys that they absolutely was a stud, and he left the free agency. He's in Denver now.
Fred Warner they drafted, right?
You talking about Greenlaw?
Yeah, no, not Greenlaw. I'm talking about
Hufanga. Hufanga. Yeah. So defensively, I think they draft pretty well.
Defensively, they're pretty solid.
Kind of Ricky Pearsall, maybe. I don't think they really have hit on guys that are mainstay picks. This draft has been interesting because they went out and got Mike. Well, Kittle was a 4th pick. Pearsall was last year.
Yeah,
Pearsall was last year.
Yeah, Ayuk wasn't bad. Debo. So I mean, for the most part, I think when they've hit.
But what was their offense? And it's like, what was their focal point of the offense? Christian McCaffrey, free agent signing.
Yeah, free agent.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the thing. So
looking at their recent draft history, it's a lot of defense.
Yeah, right.
A lot of defense, and I think Pearsall was the highest offensive player they've taken in a while.
Right.
And
they
Trent
did
Williams
spend a 3rd round
also,
pick on a kicker in 2023, so there's also that.
Right.
I was going to say Trent Williams was also a free agent signing. I
think that Mike's point though is that they have to really, really, really get good at drafting. Like, you can't have one guy every 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
Kind of hit. You gotta get cheap and fast. Because again, they just paid Fred Warner. Kittle got his contract, and then these guys aren't spring chickens. Let's be honest. Fred Warner's on the younger side, but George Kittle isn't. Trent Williams is on the I want to say his last leg, but he's got a lot more years behind him than he does ahead of him. So Chris McCaffrey's injury prone. So, and outside of that, the O-line is a bunch of no names. So it's like, you need to get really good at drafting. You need to be you need to be more Rams, your rival, how they hit on draft picks than who you are at this moment. And I think that's the biggest thing about it. And this contract is going to be indicative of that. If they don't get good on these draft picks, and especially the guys they drafted this year, like Michael Williams got to be good, Alfred Collins got to be good, CJ West got to be good, Jordan James, Upton Stout, Nick Martin, all these guys got to be good, and they got to play. That's the thing.
Yeah,
they got to be good. They're going to be quick. They got to be good, and they got to be quick. If they're not, then you're going to struggle. Because again, you got to start getting cheaper somewhere somehow, or you have to start offloading guys like Fred Warner or Kittle, because again, the cap is going to eat you up at some point. When this cap hit comes into effect in the next 2 years, I think that's going to be the telling point. What you can do, what you can do. Now, I'll bring up at this point as well. I think that they got burned with the Trey Lance thing, so they were kind of gun shy on the idea of moving on and getting another quarterback yet again, and for the 3rd time in a row, and trying to fix it again. So I think they figured, he's serviceable, he gets the offense, he's not, he doesn't elevate the team, but he won't lose me a game. Game manager versus game changer conversation, right? So I think that's why they end up paying him. But to my last point, I think that this is the year, to be honest, because they have the softest strength of schedule. They're playing a 4th place schedule. They're one of the lesser travel teams. So I would argue that if they don't get it done with the talent level that they got now, it's going to be uphill climb going forward. for me.
Yeah.
Did they finish in? They finished in last year in the division.
It did, but they were completely utterly ravaged by injury.
Dismantled, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I think with that division and for where that division is headed, if you believe in the Cardinals, I don't. Then maybe you think they're headed for a potential run at the division once Matt Stafford eventually retires, and we'll kind of see what the Rams do. But I just it's tough for the Niners, and like you said, Coach, or somebody, I think somebody mentioned in the chat, does San Francisco really think Purdy is that good, or are they just the best available right now?
Yeah, that was rough. Said that.
Yeah, I don't think that. I don't think it's necessarily either of those. Maybe it's a little bit of the best available right now. But do I think that the Niners think that they think Brock Purdy's good? No, not a shot. There's no way in hell the Niners think Brock Purdy is actually good. Kyle Shanahan might. And he might think that because he sort of has to, if he again wants to keep that job, because you traded your future. Your future went away to a quarterback that is not even on your roster anymore, and you drafted him. What was it, 3 years ago?
Got a 5th round pick back for. They drafted him in 2021.
4 years ago. So you're barely going to be entering a draft now where you actually have your full draft pick. So
that was this year. They had the first.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
they had a first round pick in quite some time. Well, this year and last year. They had Purdy last year, and they got Michael Williams this year.
Yeah,
they picked high this year. It was 11. So yeah.
Yeah, so they got to pray Purdy. I mean, yeah, like you said, Coach, they got to pray 60% of these
what
guys.
I'm saying, dude. I'm looking at all the offensive guys they took after the Trey Lance draft, and it's like, yeah, I mean, Pearsall's the only recognizable name. I mean, the rest of them are out.
And he's more recognizable for.
And he's more recognized for being shot,
Wow, damn.
Which
having a sick one-handed catch at Florida and being shot. That's kind of the two things for Pearsall right now. Just call it what it is.
Out of respect, I won't play the gunshot for that. I won't play the gunshot. That's crazy.
I mean, hey.
Oh, no.
Jeez.
Hey, Mike Dove's got one. They got a guy like that too, though.
We do. Yeah. 50
Cheddar
Cent.
Bob?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't they play many years after he came back?
They did.
They did.
Yes, indeed. Okay.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but we'll see, man. I think we all have our angst about it. I know our NFL insider, Aaron Rodgers DK, who's the biggest Niner fan that we have on the channel. He's optimistic about it, and he actually called the number that Purdy was going to sign at. He was right on, spot on with it. But again, what does that mean for your future? Because like I said, no noteworthy names outside of Pederson in the last 3 or 4 drafts, and defensive players have been good and all. But I mean, we just talked about Pittsburgh and how they can be really good on defense. But if that offense isn't clicking, because it's offensive league now, there's a ceiling there for me. There's a ceiling there, and you're looking up at the Rams already, in my opinion, and they got a better situation. And the Rams kind of own Shanahan and his in their head-to-head matchups. Let me say it that way. They kind of have gotten a better end of them lately. So I don't know. It really just depends. I mean, you got to really hit on your like Ref said, first 11 games will tell it. And it's got a cussy schedule. If you can make the playoffs and make a deep run now, I would do it now. I wouldn't wait on it, because once Brock Purdy gets into that year 2027 and 2028, 2029, it gets ugly real fast.
I mean, the success of Purdy, or I guess at least the contract seeming worth it now, in my opinion, rides with McCaffrey. And how long and how much they can get out of him until he retires. Because
they got Jordan James in the draft, but who's the other backup running back? Because Jordan Mason left in free agency. Who's their other running back? Let me look. Isaac Guerendo.
Yeah. He was a 7th round pick, I think.
He was.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an interesting cat because he's 225 pounds, but he runs a 4.3 40.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. So yeah, he can hit his head on the goalpost if you let him. But you got to get there.
But none of them are Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah,
that's true. That is true.
I mean,
hey, something about those 7th round Rutgers running backs, man. Maybe they have something in Guerendo.
Guerendo's from Louisville, but I get what you're saying.
Oh, who the hell am I thinking of then? Whoops.
Yeah, indeed. But speaking of, I guess you can say quarterbacks and their worth, right? Let's wrap the show up and let's talk about the highest paid. The top 10 highest paid quarterbacks, the millions spent on them, are they worth their investment? So we've got the top 10 quarterbacks that have been paid here recently. And the list is pretty gaudy. It's some hot names on here, some names you kind of shake your head at. So we're going to go around the room and we're going to get our opinions on 1 through 10 and exactly who you feel like is paid and are they worth it? That is the definite question. You know, we're going to go through from Dak Prescott all the way down to Lamar Jackson. They get Lamar Jackson now 10 on this list. That's crazy.
Mahomes isn't even on it.
Exactly.
I just want to point that out.
There is,
you know, the half $1 billion man not on the top 10. So
I love that. Mr. 10-year contract.
Love it.
Not on the list. It's now
there
on the
are
list.
3 Super Bowl appearances from all these quarterbacks combined.
Yeah, that's great.
Crazy.
Okay, so Mike Doe, let's start. You want to go top to bottom or bottom to top? Pause it.
Let's go top to bottom.
Okay.
That sounded crazy.
Pause if needed. That's why I said pause if needed. Okay,
all right. Let's start Dak. I'll say Dak worth it. A lot of money, but listen, quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys may be the hardest thing to do in pro football. He handles it well. I say Dak worth it. I'll just leave it there.
Okay.
Josh Allen worth it. Trevor Lawrence, no, not worth it. I can't remember what stat I saw. Trevor Lawrence was him and was it Daniel Jones have like literally the same stat line.
Yep.
Yeah, like
seasons.
Yeah. So Trevor Lawrence not worth it, which is crazy because I thought coming out of college he probably would have been one of my guys that stick my hat on. Yeah. Joe Burrow definitely. Jordan Love, nah. I'm gonna say no. Potential is there, but we just haven't seen it yet. Tua, they use him so well. Like they do a good job of their offense. So I'm gonna say Tua. I'm gonna say Tua is not worth it. Goff, for what? It's so hard because so many of these is based off of fit. It's not based off of like if they go other places, I think they absolutely wouldn't be worth it. But for where they are, I think they're good fits. Goff is a good fit in Detroit. Purdy, no, I don't think he's worth it. Herbert, worth it. Lamar, of course, worth it. So it's a little bit of a mixture. It's hard. It's really hard to tell. But I just find it interesting that out of this whole list, you have maybe 2 top 5 quarterbacks in the league, maybe three top 5 quarterbacks in the league. But you're missing, like you said, Mahomes. You're missing, other guys on there. So that's interesting to me. But I would say it's probably half and half. Half of them are worth it, but most of it is based off of fit. There's very few guys on this list that I think you could put it anywhere in the league and they'll be worth that money.
Okay.
So
okay, young RG, what is your take on the top 10?
So I'll kind of do what Mike Dub did, and I'll go down the list quickly. So Dak Prescott, yeah, for all that about being a Cowboys QB and he handles it well, yeah, I guess. Is he worth the money to play the position of quarterback? Hell nah. Not in a million years. Josh Allen, 100% deserves it. I mean, like we mentioned, and one of the top 5 QBs in the league, top 3, honestly. Trevor Lawrence, no way. Definitely hasn't proved it at all so far. I think the first person on this list going from top to bottom that was just the victim of the Jags could not let him walk. That's because true. If he would have succeeded anywhere else, the Jags franchise would have been in turmoil right now. So agreed. You were kind of, when you draft somebody number 1 overall, unless they are just dog awful, you're pretty much stuck to them for, the foreseeable future, at least the rookie deal and probably an extension after that. So, still a little bit of time with Trevor. He's obviously shown flashes here or there, but you're obviously disappointed being a number 1 overall pick, and especially as highly touted of a number 1 overall pick as he was coming out of that draft. Going on to Joe Burrow next, 100% he deserves it. Although Burrow always gives me a little bit of pause because for as great as he is, we have never seen him be that great without having the upper echelon tier talent of wide receivers. In college, he had Jay Jettas and Jamar Chase. In the pros, he has Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I mean, like, it's no wonder the Bengals forked over all that money to keep both those wide receivers, because the unknown of what Burrow could be without that is just too much for them to fathom, I guess.
Right.
So, take that with a grain of salt, but yes, he does deserve it. Jordan Love, this is why you don't sit QBs you draft in the first round for 3 years, because when they finally do get to play, you got to make a decision quick on got to pay them or not. You don't actually get to sit and watch them develop over the years and then decide.
That's Aaron Rodgers' fault, but go ahead though. Keep cooking.
I mean, yeah. Well, it's Aaron Rodgers' fault and it's also the Packers' fault, but we'll leave it at that. Tua, no way in hell. Another guy who is just a victim of you drafted him with a top 5 pick. I was shocked they gave him the contract, however, since Brian, what's the coach?
Mike McDaniel.
Mike McDaniel. I was going to say Mike McDonald. Mike McDaniel wasn't even the coach to draft Tua, yet they still gave him the extension. So take that for what you will. I just don't see it, man. I mean, you put one of the just not even best wide receiver, one of the best pure weapons in Tyreek Hill on that squad, and they didn't even sniff a playoff win. So I don't know. I'm not a big tangibles guy, but you got to meet certain criteria at least, and Tua is just not. He's just not that. Jared Goff, I'm a little bit with Mike on this one. I don't think he deserves it. Another top. He was the number 1 overall pick. Am I wrong?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, he was.
He was, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah. Oh man, what a back-to-back duo.
Total polar opposite.
Total polar opposite.
Rundowns.
Yeah.
But
hey, Carson Wentz got a Super Bowl ring though. Let's give it again.
You know what, Alex? It's so funny you say that, because if you would have said after year 1, from where each QB was, you would have never thought this is where they would have.
Oh, and like Goff went to a Super Bowl. He just lost 6-3 to Brady. Whatever the hell it was. Yeah, whatever the hell. It was the most boring thing ever.
A golf score
after they played the Chiefs that year, and the total score was like 160 or something crazy.
63 to 55 was like
something ridiculous.
We just collectively erase that Super Bowl from our minds and make that Rams Chiefs game the Super Bowl.
Right.
Those are the forgotten times.
These aren't the Super Bowl you're looking for.
Yeah, this is not the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl never happened.
Right.
So yeah, I just think Goff is like Purdy was in a great situation, is in a great situation with a ton of weapons, great O-line, great coaching. So yeah, just very, very the beneficiary of a great team. Purdy, we already talked about. Don't think he deserves that. Herbert, obviously a little biased with this, but I do truly think that he does deserve it. Obviously, his career achievements up until this point aren't warranted for that contract. So if people want to come in here arguing, well, Brock Purdy, has at least been to a Super Bowl, so he deserves that. If you want to argue team achievements for single players, this is not the place to do it. I'm sorry. I'm not going to have none of that mess. But, I can go on and on about the coaching. I think he deserves it for sure. And Lamar, not even a question, 2-time MVP. Yes, 1,000% deserves it. Probably deserves. Yeah, I was just about to say, probably deserves more, honestly.
He deserves what Dak deserves, and Dak deserves.
We gotta flip those. Put Dak down at the 52, and I think all will be right.
There you go. All right, Real AG, you up?
All right. I will preface. I think some of this is obviously the guys are just a victim of when they are up for a contract extension. That's and it's everyone. It's like whoever QB's next, they're going to reset the market, whether they're worth it or not. And I also agree with what Mike Dubb noted on. Some of these guys are certainly worth it based on where they're at and how they fit into that team. But for me, for planning for the show, I just looked at it as more of like, what have they done for that team? And do I think, is that price tag worthy of what they've done to this point? That's kind of how I assess this for my yes or no. So to start with Dak, I agree with Robert. It is a hell no for me. 60 mil a year. And, Buddy plays half the year. So, that's nothing else needs to be said there. Josh Allen, absolutely yes. Trevor Lawrence, I think, like everyone said, victim of just being up for the contract extension at that time, but absolutely not worth it. Joe Burrow, definitely worth it. But I do agree, he kind of gives me some pause too. He gets the benefit of the supporting cast, but he has elevated the Bengals to levels that their fan base has never been in before, which is evident if you just look at Bengal fan base on Twitter. They're all very high on meth. But Jordan Love, I don't know, not worth it in my opinion. He's been given the reins of the kingdom and has really done nothing to progress them further for them to give him all this money.
Yep.
Tua, definitely not worth it. And I also was shocked that they even gave him that money because he had all the injury concerns going into it. And yeah, I mean, he fits well with McDaniel in that system, but if teams like my Chiefs have shown, if you just get a little aggressive with them and throw the system that's based on timing off, Tua has no idea what to do. So, that's all I needed to see to be like, wow, how could they pay that guy? Jared Goff, in my opinion, not worth it, but I do agree, like he is a great fit in Detroit, but we'll see now that Ben Johnson's gone, if that, if he falls off. Yeah. Purdy, I already told you, overpay, not worth it. Herbert, I think, is worth it, as much as, the Chiefs fan in me wants to say no, but the dude is a baller. And, if people want to push back, like I'd argue, like, well, if you put Justin Herbert on the 49ers,
oh my God,
what do they do? You put Justin Herbert on, some of like the Jags, he's probably elevating them. They're probably running the AFC South. And Lamar, like I said, absolutely worth it. Probably too cheap now. If you look at some of these guys paid ahead of him.
Lamar and Mahomes are bargains at this point. They're absolutely bargains.
And just to draw the point home, got to rep the Chiefs. Just to name the other QBs that are worth more per year than Mahomes that aren't on this list. You got Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, and Kirk Cousins. So
Jalen Hurts is like the only one that
somewhat,
you make the argument.
Crazy.
He was on the list until Brock Purdy got paid, and he got pushed off the list because I believe he's 11.
He's 11.
Yes, I believe he's 11. So yes,
wow,
yes, indeed. Okay, well, I might fire a few shots here. So hold on to your chair. So I'm gonna start with Dak Prescott, and absolutely positively, hell no, Dak Prescott does not deserve $60 million a year. And again, yes, it does take a lot to be Jerry Jones. Sorry,
my bad.
I was gonna say Pat. I wanted to say Pat. I was like, that's harsh, but you said puppet, so hey, it is what it is. I get it. It's hard to play with Jerry Jones and Cowboys. There's a lot of stigma that comes with that. There's a lot of politics that you got to play being a quarterback, but still $60 million is real steep, especially with the team being where it is, how it's currently constructed. Your coaching staff is lackluster. You lost Dan Quinn. You fired McCarthy. I mean, you could have done it yourself. If you kept those guys, you at least been in the running for paying Dak $60 million and had the receivers that you have. And I do believe that O-line is better, but you got better with your O-line a year too late, because if McCarthy had the line that they have, the youth that they have at this moment, he would be in the playoffs perennially. But again, that's what Jerry Jones does. He always was, too little, too late when it comes down to moves he makes. So it is what it is. So you pay Dak $60 million, you'll start to feel that sooner than later. Josh Allen, no need to even talk about that. MVP, he carries. I mean, he's probably the guy on this list that, barring him and Lamar Jackson, can elevate and carry their teams at times that he absolutely positively needs to get it done. I think that we all can say that. So it's not a whole lot to say about it. Trevor Lawrence, I want to give him some grace. Again, he's had a lot of tumultuous things going on, much like Justin Herbert has when it comes down to how dysfunctional this organization has been. So I would like to say that him getting, a new coach finally, a new weapon, in Travis Hunter, and got Brian Thomas Jr., in year 2. I would like to say that he should be better this year, but this is it. It's a make or break for you this year. It's going to be a bad investment after this year if he does not produce. Joe Burrow, outside of him having to put up 50 points a game, he does get it done. He does deliver. Only thing you got to really question him about is the playoff performances. But yet again, your defense kind of lets you down in certain spaces, so you can't be Superman every day, right? Jordan Love, again, I think him and Trevor Lawrence are kind of the same boat. I think that him getting Matthew Golden, he's got a genius play caller. He's always had a functional O-line, good running game, got a bell cow running back. So I think, with him being injured on and off last year kind of hampered his development. So if he stays healthy this year, it's a make or break for him. I think the investment gets bad if he does not produce and makes it the playoffs this year and, makes maybe a little bit of a run. I'm with all y'all with Tua. I believe that he is. He should have never got paid. If I was Mike McDaniel, I'd have went into Stephen Ross' office and said, "Look, I didn't draft this guy. I am limited in what I can do with this guy. We need to go back into the draft or free agency and get another guy. I need to get my own guy because I believe that the genius that play caller that he is, if he had a really functional quarterback, the Dolphins would be dangerous.
Yeah,
with the level of
absolutely.
speed they have on this offense, and we get the O-line has been bad, but the speed of this offense, I mean, just to have a competent, strong arm, mobile quarterback like a Cam Ward, for instance, would be great for him. You know, for somebody that can be all platform and not often injured. So $53 million for a quarterback, you know, you're not guaranteed to have throughout the years is a steep price. Jared Goff bothers me and has bothered me for a while because he doesn't play well outdoors, and that's the ceiling for me. And you're playing in Detroit, so you're lucky that them and Minnesota both have domes. So you get 4 games guaranteed that you're inside, but he struggles in cold weather. I mean, that's a stealing. That's a point of contention for me. For pay, I got $53 million for. Brock Purdy, yet again, another guy that you're going to feel the effects of come in year 2 and year 3 of his contract because you have to move off those stud receivers and tight ends and O linemen. So, yeah, that's going to get bad real fast, in my opinion. Justin Herbert obviously is worth it. I think that, you know, him being with Harbaugh in year 2 should definitely open up, you know, allow him to spread his wings. Now he has better receivers. And of course, Lamar Jackson, being the MVP of the league. I mean, you know, 2-time MVP, pretty a Pro Bowler, you know, constantly in the playoffs. I mean, what more can you say about it? Again, like I said, he's underpaid. Pay him $60 million and pay Dak $50 million, and we'll call it a day. But yeah, yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, so we'll see how things go, man. But I'm definitely eyeing Jordan Love and Trevor Lawrence because they being 2 and 4 or 5 on this list. Yeah, y'all,
Crazy.
It's a make or break, put up or shut up for y'all for sure. Because it's starting to look, you know, and then Kyler Murray, who's not on this list, but he's a put up or shut up for me too. He has to get it done and get it done right now. If he doesn't, because they put things around you now, there's no excuses. Especially with Jordan Love, there's no excuse for Jordan Love at all. He has everything he needs.
No, I mean he literally took over a playoff team and then made them not be in the playoffs in 2 years. And got a raise.
We did. The division got better, but
still, I mean, yeah, like that. I mean, not much changed outside of the quarterback. And I did want to. Was Trevor Lawrence's rookie year the Urban Meyer fiasco?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, yes. They probably cut him a little break with that, and then he went to Doug Pederson.
I want to give him grace. Right.
All right. Real quick. What is your all opinion on Doug Pederson as a head coach?
I think obviously he's a good coach, but I feel like it's either his personality or the style of coaching stales quick. Because I mean, you got bumped out of Philly pretty quick after winning a Super Bowl, and then you know went to Jacksonville, and I thought they definitely looked better, but it got them to the playoffs.
Right.
As you and Coach would remember.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes.
But then he fizzled out quick. So it's just, true. I think it's got to be. I mean, obviously the coaching, the talent coach wise is there, but I think Doug Pederson, the person, people can't be around him for that long. Well, what it seems like to me.
I don't think it's not so much that. I think he does not update his portfolio. I think that he has a certain amount of plays. It's almost like that scene in The Waterboy where you're looking through the playbook and he already knows what you're going to run before you're going to run it. Kind of thing. Defensive coordinators get these, tendencies on you and what you're going to do and how you want to do it. So they figured Doug Pederson out. After that Super Bowl year, if you look at his production, it's gone down, glowingly. It's been a deep decline. So I think the defensive coordinators have figured him out and he hasn't updated his resume. So you got to stay current and stay nuanced with. That's why I give a lot of credit to Kevin O'Connell, McVay, Shanahan, and Mike McDaniel, and all those guys are really good play callers because they constantly keep defensive coordinators on their toes. They keep them guessing. They add these little wrinkles and different nuances to these plays. You see Mike McDaniel add all this motion to his playbook, putting Tyreek Hill and Waddle and all those guys in motion, throwing things off. But if you stay the same in this year to year, they're going to figure you out real quick. And they're going to stop it, and it's not going to be good. It's not going to be pretty. Yeah. Sure. All right. So, anybody got anything to add to this before we wrap it up here?
I think
I just make it or break it.
Yeah. I just echo, what a lot of guys have said. It's just when you're up, whether they're worth it or not. Most teams, you're not in a position that you can lose your guy.
True.
So you got to pay him whatever. Yeah,
You drafted him for sure. Absolutely. That's what Brady got paid.
Yeah, or else you end up like the Steelers. So
right. To bring it back full circle. Good
yeah,
job.
there we go.
Bring it back full circle. I like that. I like that. Good stuff, gentlemen. Good stuff. All right, man. Boom. There it is. So we are through the NFL offseason blitz for 5/27/25, man. Good show, gentlemen. Good show for sure, man. Good show. So cool Kev. Look at this. There you go. There he is. There, good guy. How you feeling? How you feeling? All right, man. All right. So yeah. So as always, we like to drop content each and every day, 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Please hit that subscribe button and let everybody know that we're out here. And to give you a little food for thought before you go, if you think people are fools for wanting to learn the hard way, you might end up being a fool or feeling foolish if you want to teach them. If the blind are leading the blind, you can't reach them. If the people around you don't want to be led, why lead them? And the people around you are not as hungry as you, why feed them? That is your Coach Defense food for thought, just to leave you with something. But like I said, I'm your host, Coach Defense. We drop content each and every day, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so. Check out the Electric Shop podcast for daily Chargers content. The Lightning Fast Fantasy Football podcast. We'll be back this summer getting you ready for the 2025 fantasy football season. The links will be in the description of this video if you watch this on replay. Like I said, hit that subscribe button, let the YouTube algorithm know we're out there so you never miss an upload. And as always, you got to step up to lock it down.